It's really, really, really easy to take a big old poopy on top of any politician you basically want to nowadays. You can find something about pretty much everyone that is gonna be bad and make you say, I hate them, they're not fit for their position, they have interests that are their own, not for the people, whatever it is. But in this day and age of hate on the internet, I think it's important that you need to be pretty, critical thinking and be able to give credit where credit is due. And looking at this article, I'm actually maybe going to give some credit to Kamala Harris for what this title is. Harris rebukes China in speech on Indo-Pacific vision. I'll just read a little bit and then I'll talk about it. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a sharp rebuke to China for its incursions in the South China Sea, warning its actions there amount to, quote, coercion and intimidation, and affirming that the U.S. will support its allies in the region against Beijing's advances. Quote, we know that Beijing continues to coerce, to intimidate, and to make claims to the vast majority of the South China Sea. End quote. She said in a foreign policy speech Tuesday in Singapore in which she laid out the Biden administration's vision for the Indo-Pacific, quote, Beijing's actions continue to undermine the rules-based order and threaten the sovereignty of nations. Now, one thing there's the rules-based order, and I think you can argue in the 21st century, yes, we have a very bureaucratic global world now. There's rules for everything. We have rules of war. Now, to me, that although I think they're very, very good, I think that we should have some rules for war, because, with the technology we got nowadays, yeah, it'd be kind of crazy if you just didn't have any rules and people would be getting killed in such horrific ways in mass numbers. I just don't want to see that. No one wants to see that. So I think it's a good thing we have rules for war. But the idea that, yes, we live in a bureaucratic system where there's rules for everything, and usually it's the West that has come up with those in the past few hundred years. And I think a good example is the idea of human rights. Human rights given to the individual by God is a very, very Western idea. China doesn't have that same view of human rights or rights of nations, because it kind of goes on the idea of rights going down to the individual. Well, then it goes up, and so a country has rights to be their own country. That's why we view Taiwan and typically as a country in the United States. But if you ask someone in China or globally, yeah, no, it's the Chinese Taipei. It is not Taiwan. It's not a separate country. It is a separatist country of China. They have become separate. That's why they're desperately trying to take them back, which leads us into the conversation about potential war with China. But like I said, I need to give credit where credit is due. Although I don't like the idea of America going into foreign lands and declaring that we are going to be the world police, our ideas are better than anyone else's, and you should subscribe to our ideas. I think what we see what that does in Kabul, Afghanistan. If you go in with no social cohesion and just say, we are here to bring freedom to the people, yeah, no, it's not going to work. It works in America because we had the English Empire to fight, and we decided to subscribe to these ideas. We have a unifying story, a unifying culture that every American can say, this is what we believe in, this is our story, this is why we believe in freedom. That didn't exist in Afghanistan. So when we left 20 years later, and we should have left long before, I mean, my entire life pretty much was almost, not mine, but through my entire existence, America has been occupying Afghanistan. We should have been out earlier. We basically see nothing changed. We didn't really help. Maybe we gave them 20 years of what you would call decent prosperity, some peace, but the moment we're gone, they collapse. Harris, who was on a week-long swing through Southeast Asia, declared that the U.S. stands with our allies and our partners in the face of threats from China. I'll scroll down. Harris underscored this shift, calling the Indo-Pacific critically important to our nation's security and prosperity. She said that while the U.S. is focused on closing out its Afghanistan engagement by evacuating as many people as possible, it is also imperative that we address developments in one region. We continue to advance our interests in other regions, including this region. Her rebuke to Beijing amounted to her sharpest comments yet on U.S. foe, and China hit back, with Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin invoking Afghanistan in his response to a question about Harris's comments, saying the messy withdrawal from Kabul showed the U.S. has lost credibility. He charged the U.S., quote, can smear, suppress, coerce, and bully other countries at will in order to maintain its America first without paying any price. You know what? Again, give credit where credit is due. this is kind of the anti-war sentiment that a lot of Americans hold. Why should we be going in there and asserting ourselves? We are the bully in Afghanistan. I do believe that. I mean, I think the Taliban's also a bully. I think the best thing is live and let live. Those people should be able to live however they want, and who is America to come in and put... And basically, think of it like the Empire in Star Wars. You are living in Afghanistan, but let's put it as like the Star Wars reference. You're Tatooine. You're just a person on Tatooine. You're not a Jedi. You're not an Empire. You're just existing there as a person or alien living. All of a sudden, the Empire, the stormtroopers in these white suits come in and they start marching around, dictating things, telling you how you're going to live your life. Well, that's basically the American military in Afghanistan. They went in with their camo uniforms and said, this is how you need to do things. Now, because the Taliban was there and resisting, to say the very least, yeah, people are saying, well, who do I want to pick? The person who's resisting with extreme force, or the Empire, the US military, who came in and is providing protection? Yeah, you'd probably go with the people going to provide protection because they're less likely to get hurt. But now what we're seeing is when that protection leaves, and it has to go eventually, because why are we there unless, to surround Iran, we end up getting this collapse. Now, there was one more part I wanted to read. Alright, basically, there's one more quote from Harris. Where was it? It was right up top here. Okay, right here. On Monday, Harris told sailors aboard a U.S. combat ship at Changi Naval Base in Singapore that, quote, a big part of history of the 21st century will be written about this very region, and that their work defending the region was pivotal. What does she mean by that? I mean, you have to remember, this is the Vice President of the United States, and there's some stuff going on like this. China threatens Japan with nuclear war over intervention in Taiwan. Get rid of that ad. China portrays the U.S. as, quote, weak and unreliable to draw Taiwan closer, analysts say. I mean, I could pull up story after story after story. I'm going to stick on the Harris story, but it does seem like China wants Taiwan. They want more control. They view it, the South China Sea, as theirs. We know that to be a fact. And they would like to be the global superpower the way America has been for the past 200 years. At least 100, I'd say, since like World War I, especially the end of World War II. That's what they want. And it's interesting to hear the Vice President say, history will be written about this region in the 21st century, a big part of history. Seems like she knows that something might be going down. Now, there's also stories about us putting more boats and moving our planes around in that region. It seems, and you could even argue that we're getting troops out of Afghanistan because we might need them to go and fight in the Indo-Pacific. Now, I don't want that. The threat of nuclear war is terrifying, but the question is a really hard ethical question. Although I don't love the idea of interventionism, and again, I've criticized America already for going into Afghanistan, but China's a different kind of animal. Afghanistan, I'm sorry, like, are they going to take over the world? No, there's zero chance. China's a different kind of beast. China is a subversive entity, and specifically the Chinese Communist Party, because the people of China, the land itself is fine, but the Chinese Communist Party and the way they fight for their interests are subversive. They will basically go into countries and be like, oh, we'll help you, we'll build something, and then put that country into debt when they have to default on the debt and they can't pay off what China's built. China goes, well, it's ours now. It's basically new imperialism. They will do basically what we see here. Oh, America is struggling handling Afghanistan and Kabul. Well, we're going to use that to show you guys are pathetic and weak. They'll never acknowledge their own weaknesses, but they will make sure the world knows about all of yours while acting like they're the strongest position. Now, it's scary because is China a paper tiger? Are they as strong as they seem? Who knows? But it's these kinds of stories, and again, I'll give credit where credit is due. At least we are starting to see our elites, the politicians that we vote in, and the media start to kind of call out China. I mean, and I don't want war, but like I also don't want to just bide our time for another 30 years as our manufacturing is stripped from the United States, the value of our dollar collapses, and we're left with basically nothing but buying Chinese products and being under their control. Because if they control the world economy through exports, I mean, yeah, we'd be screwed, just like the rest of the world. I mean, we have some serious problems going on, and that's why it's really, really important, I think, to listen to things like this, read yourself, listen to anyone else, but be educated. Think for yourself, look at what's going on, and decide what's important to me, what isn't. I mean, the reason for me, being a 23-year-old man, this is the kind of story that I think is important, because what would I do if a war broke out? How is America going? Do I actually stand for the American ideas that we're fighting for right now? I mean, I don't love wokeism, but I also think that America is the best bet for freedom that the world has. I don't know. It's really, really tough. And would I join the military if there was a war? I'm not sure. Who knows? I'd like to say I'd do my part in any way I possibly can, but with the military being as woke as it is right now, do I really want to go and fight for those ideas? It's up to the individual to decide. Now, of course, we now have the draft, and women are a part of the draft as well now, so yeah, no, maybe it's not for us to decide. I think I've spoken enough about this topic, though. I'm going to end it there. Thank you all for watching. Another video coming out sometime. Goodbye.